Welcome back to the Brave Podcast. My name is Angelo, aka Exploring with Angelo, here on YouTube. Normally, you find me out there hunting ghosts, going to abandoned places, strange locations. On this show, we do something a little bit different. We invite guests. We talk about sometimes the most random things that you can possibly imagine. So today we have a very interesting guest, somebody that I went to high school with. I've played soccer with them, and now they are into real estate. But before we get to him, let me introduce my fantastic, sexy co-host, Moshi.
I really wish you were my wife saying that. Not you, man. Thank you very much. Hey, I'm Mohammed. On YouTube and Instagram, I'm Moshi, yo. I want to remind you guys, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as a little spicy one called Rumble. You can head over there and hear all the things we can never talk about on YouTube and the rest. So do that. Today, I'm going to introduce a new friend of mine who I'm going to learn a lot from, I think. His name, welcome, sir, Vany Kilyana.
Glad to be here, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So how's things? It's been a little while since we've seen each other, I think.
Hey, man, we used to battle out on the soccer field, but it's been a while for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last time I saw you was when I had the restaurant, if you remember that. I was looking to sell the location.
Yes,
You remember that?
Yes,
I called you in.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, that was probably, I don't know, do you remember when I had that? Like 5 years ago or something like that?
It might have
more,
been longer.
Certainly more.
Man.
Like,
it might have been like 10 years.
Good chance it was like 10 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no idea, but yeah, I owned a restaurant long time ago. We used to sell Greek food, diner style foods, did things, Italian. And then at one point we were kind of looking to move away from that location. So I remember calling him to see if we could offload the place, essentially.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't realize was that there was actually another real estate agent we had asked to list the place who had never explained that apparently when you make a real estate listing for something like that, they're basically like, what is it, forced to hold the real estate listing for like a year or so, or like a certain amount of months or something, right?
Well, it depends what you sign, right?
Yeah.
And everything's in the agreement. So if you sign a 6 month or 1 year, it depends what you signed, right? But typically, it's exclusive to them.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that because I was a noob in the in that whole world. So I don't know. I don't even remember what we signed. I have absolutely no idea. But so today we're gonna probably learn a lot about the current markets. What's basically the future looking like, and I think Vany will have a lot of really really good insight into that. So it should get a little bit spicy if you want to learn about money or maybe potentially making money. If you want to get into real estate, this might be a conversation for you. Tell us. So you were recently on a podcast for one, right?
Yes, I was. So my brokerage, property.ca, we just started doing a podcast. So I was the third guest there. They're just interviewing agents that are within the brokerage, and I got asked to be on, so I was on it. It's funny because they actually incorporate the podcast with our team meeting. So they interview a guest while they're explaining the Toronto market, whatever market we're in. So they talk about what the agent knows and what the market's like. So it's both.
Okay,
That's cool.
That's pretty insightful. So first off, what made you want to get into real estate? What motivated you? Did you do it like right after high school, or was there a transition period?
Yeah, so I got my license when I was 21, so I'm coming up to 12 years. Actually, this is my 12th year in July. So I got into real estate because my brother was into flipping properties. He was buying properties. So I was like, you know what? How can I transition from, knowing so many people? Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I went to 12 schools in Brampton alone.
Oh, wow.
Right? I went to 10 elementaries, 2 different high schools. So every single year I had to meet new people. And I just felt like that, along with the club stuff I used to do with the all ages and getting to know so many people, how can I transition the people that I know to making money? So I figured back then, I'm like, real estate might be a perfect career, right? So just got into it head first when I was 21.
Makes a lot of sense. I guess that would be more so utilizing your what's called the warm market, right? So that makes a lot of sense. I remember when we were both involved in Primerica. When was that? Like 20...
07, 8, 08-ish.
Oh, wait, yeah, because I remember that was when basically the economy took a huge flat line, essentially.
That's right.
And then we got into that and we learned tons of stuff, which is kind of like the process of like the sales process is kind of similar, right? Of how you engage with clients, things like that. But how long have you, so now you've been doing it, how old are you now? I don't even know.
I was 21. I'm 33 now, so I've been doing it for 12 years.
Good.
Yeah,
So
it's been a while.
it's going well for yourself. Every time I talk about you with other people, they're like, yeah, man, Vany's killing it. I'm like, yeah, man, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So that's good. But yeah, so how does the licensing process work? Because I've had like a little bit of insight or conversation about, but how does that work? Is it easy? Is it just like one thing you have to do, or?
So when I got into real estate, the licensing was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do 3 exams, and then after you do the 3 exams, you're licensed, and then you have to do 3 more exams within 2 years of being licensed. Right now, it's a little bit different because Humber College took over the licensing process. I got my license in about maybe 6 months. Now it takes 8 to 12 months. But let's be real, the licensing to become a real estate agent, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It sounds like it because like I've so many people say, oh, I got my real estate license and I can sell a house if I want to. Yeah. But I don't think it's that easy.
The licensing itself and the exams are pretty easy. Right. But, getting into the business is a whole different story. Right. But I do think they need to toughen that up a little bit. Yeah. Right. The exams need to be harder. The licensing needs to be harder. Maybe even the admission and the requirements for how much it costs should be higher too, right? Because we're over 100,000 agents in the GTA, which is crazy.
That's wild.
Right? And over the last couple of years, especially like during COVID, everybody had downtime, right? So everybody's going for their license. They're at home. Why not? They can do it online. So people think they're going to make a quick buck. They're going to get into the business, but it's not really like that. People are quick to learn that it's not easy.
My bad.
Yeah. That's the thing that most people don't understand, right? They think they're just going to hop into it. It could be anything really. Like the amount of people that I know who've maybe tried to start YouTube, right? And then like, for example, another larger YouTuber like myself would help them, but then they don't really end up doing, the typical grind type of stuff of, starting the business realistically and trying to actually turn it into something that's much larger than they just think, oh, I'm just going to get a camera and start recording myself saying random stuff and I'm gonna get 1 million views, right? And it's like, no, man, you gotta, like, nowadays you gotta get extremely lucky, right? I mean, I've been doing this so long myself, kind of like you. Well, YouTube, I don't think I've even been doing it nearly as long as what you've been doing in real estate, but just to actually make something so much larger than just yourself at the end of the day takes a lot of work, right? Especially in the early stages. You got to put the most amount of effort with the least amount of return, and you got to be willing to make a lot of sacrifices and to be able to get where you really want to get to, right? So
everything's behind the scenes, right? Even when you were doing your YouTube videos, you weren't getting any views, but you kept putting videos out because you knew what you had to offer. You knew your value proposition. So you kept putting videos out knowing that in some day it's going to pay off, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's any business you get into. You got to put in the groundwork behind the curtains when nobody's watching, and someday it's going to bloom, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's, realistically, most people don't know there's probably been days where you want to break down and cry because shit's so bad. You can't pay your bills and you're just struggling and you're trying to figure out what can you do that is the next step to get you kind of where you want to get to, right? Like, people don't understand that the struggle is real when you do things like that. Like you said, there's 100,000 people doing real estate. And it's funny too, because I was just looking it up, but I couldn't find the exact number. But in the GTA, like, what's the population?
6 million?
6 million.
6.5 million in the
so
GTA.
That means like what?
I think it might be more now. I mean, we're letting immigrants in like crazy in the last couple of years, right? I think we let in 1 million last year.
Yeah.
2016 it says 5.9 mil. So
5.9 mil. So based on those numbers, 100,000 of those 5.9 mil, just to put it into perspective, are real estate agents. Like, that's wild. And
it is.
The question is, like, how many of them are actually successful? How many of them are just doing it just to sell one house a year, right? And it could, maybe it's their own house, right? Maybe that's what they do. I do know a lot of people do that for their own financial benefit if they flip real estate type of thing, right? So,
or their immediate family or stuff like that. But honestly, they say that 90% of agents do 10% of the business, and 10% of agents do 90% of the business, right? A lot of agents are part-time. And if you want just some numbers, if we're saying 100,000 agents, 50% of those 100,000 agents do 1 deal or 0 deals a year, right? Got it. So if you want to put that into perspective, that's 50% of the agents out there are doing 1 deal or 0 a year. There's only, I think there's only like 4,000 or 5,000 agents that are actually doing like 20 or more transactions a year,
right?
And that's kind of where you want to get to, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, even in the finance industry, when we were around there, it was kind of like the same thing. Like our company alone, I think in Canada had about, what was it, like 10,000 licensed agents. But obviously not everyone does business, right? There was a lot of people on the side, but there were also a lot of people on the side who were doing a lot more business than even people who were doing it full time, right? Remember, we had one friend, he passed away unfortunately, but he was, I think, an accountant, and then knowing his clientele already to begin with, obviously they trusted him, so he was helping them on the investment side as well, which was brilliant. He was bringing in like hundreds of thousands of dollars in investments, which was fantastic for him and the company, right? So just to kind of put into perspective in that position, there are a lot of people who can be very successful even on a part-time basis, right? Is that how you started? Were you part-time, or you just went like full 100% right away?
So I was doing the nightclubs at the same time I was doing that. So I still had some money coming in from doing the promotions and stuff. But just to touch back on what you were saying on the Primerica stuff, it's like, what people need to understand is when you're getting to a certain business, it's not just about the business. Like, you know how many connections you're going to be making with all of these different people over the years? And I always say it's not about what you know, it's about who you know, right? Gathering those connections of people that you're going to meet throughout the years is huge. Like if you ever get out of the business, you just met 1,000 new people that are in various different industries, and you know, you could put your feet into one of those, right? You have contacts, so it's a lot easier.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've retained a lot of like knowing different people from almost every single business that I've done over the years, right? Like, I mean, we became good friends, obviously. I'm still good friends with a lot of people who were in Primerica or are currently still there, and then various different people from different industries that I've been kind of associated with, like what you said, right? Like if you remember Steve and Natasha, the Portuguese people, like I still talk to them. They used to buy jerseys from
Steve,
I think we went to a stag, right? So like I still talk to them periodically. I went to go see them last summer, and it's like I never would have known them had I not been doing this business. Or my friend Johnny, who lives in Toronto, like I never would have known him had I not been, you know, being the only person selling Greek jerseys in all of Toronto during the Euro 2012. So it's
too bad you didn't sell them in 2004, eh?
I know, right? No, I was a little bit later than that. So I had one question here, made a little bit of notes. So what is the most expensive house that you've ever sold in your entire career? Because I just have to know.
The most expensive home that I've purchased for a client was $4 million, and that was in Puss Lynch, Ontario.
Where?
It's Guelph.
Oh, okay.
It was
I've never heard of that place.
It was it was a really big home, backing onto a lake. It was a gated community.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right.
That's cool.
When was that? 4 million? When was that?
That was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, right? I mean, a lot of my business is based on my sphere, and a lot of people are from high school, a lot of friends, you know. So the price point I'm usually at is in around the $1 million mark. Obviously, the affordability nowadays is kind of tougher, but yeah. $1 million
doesn't really buy you too much nowadays, right? So I wonder, have you ever looked at how much that house is worth now? So you said 4 million. When was that?
Yeah, so that house was sold like right before COVID. Actually, it was during COVID, right when it hit.
Okay.
So the market was pretty hot, but remember, with areas like that are like in gated communities, they're very, very niche. Those kind of homes don't really lose value, because people are always looking after them. And when you get into that price point of the 3, 4, 5 million, these people aren't really affected by what's going on. They got money, right? They've already figured it out. You know what I mean? So that price points, they're still selling in today's market, right?
Mm-hmm.
That price point of the 3-5 million, people are still going after them. They're still selling. So
Oh yeah, it's crazy. There's been some mansions down Toronto, for example, on I don't remember the exact street, but they're near Drake's house.
Bridle Path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in that area, but I think it's Park Lane Circle. So over the years, there's been, because I've done a lot of abandoned locations, so
Right.
a lot of mansions come up.
Yeah.
Because I have a good friend of mine, Ethan. He's been on the show twice now, and he's just absolutely obsessed with like mansions, big homes, things like that. And there was one in particular, we used to call it the Marble Mansion. I think we were talking about it on the live stream, and the house has been abandoned. It's very outdated. It's from like the 80s. It's got like those like the glass cubes, and like everything looks like it's made out of marble or what. It is a super cool house, like super retro 80s that you think like Vice City or something, right? So that house originally a couple years ago, it's been abandoned for like probably 5 years. It was listed, I think, for 13.5 or something like that, and then eventually got taken off the market, and there's like this crazy story behind the whole place, and then eventually got relisted for like 14.9, and I think it actually ended up selling for 16.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's not like, it's a big house, but it's like, I don't know, it's got to be maybe 5,000-6,000 square feet. So, I mean,
Probably needs a lot of work, right?
Oh, yeah. They basically stripped it all apart, which was very sad to see, because it was like really cool the way it was, but it had gotten very vandalized because, you know, people are stupid. But yeah, there's so many homes down there that are just at such a ridiculous price. And it's like, really? This house is selling for this much? There was actually another one. It was on the same street. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the exact number. It might come up on Google Maps, but this place was big. It was, I want to say 15,000, 20,000 square feet. I think it had last sold for 20 or 30 million dollars, and then somebody recently bought it and decided they were going to just tear it down. It had actually been used in the movie It Takes Two with the Olsen twins way back in the day. And it was really funny the way they did it, because if you look in the movie, they were looking outside the window and there was like this giant lake right at the back of the house, but obviously in that area there's no lake there. It just doesn't exist. So but yeah, man, you see all sorts of crazy stuff down there. Like even Drake's house has got to be worth like
crazy,
right?
Crazy.
So the funny
know exactly what it is.
I know, but I've seen like obviously videos online and stuff. But going back to like the character and stuff, I think some of my favorite renovations are based on people keeping character in the house along with the new renovations. I don't like when they gut the entire place, you know. I like when there's you know, stone exposed, or there's like beams from the olden days in the house, you know what I mean? I like that renovation. When you keep character in the house, it just feels more homey.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Some of those homes you go into that are fully renovated, you don't even want to live there. You're like scared to put your feet on the floor, right? So
too modern, too crisp.
that's right.
Yeah. Oh, Bo's broken.
Oh,
so.
I'm burning in hot.
So we're probably gonna have to just cut for a second and then come
Fix
right
the video.
back. All right, and we are back. Apparently, we just have a faulty HDMI cable. I don't know why it's doing that, but
It's
working again. Yeah. So where were we? You were saying that we need to open up LimeWire or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll solve the problem. I don't know about that one. If I open that up, I might end up getting a virus. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I like the houses with a lot more character. There was actually there's one recently that I've been kind of looking at for myself, and it's an old historic building, and old historic house, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to go into too much detail just yet because I want to make a series out of it, because I think it'll be really interesting, because it is considered historic, so it can't be torn down, but the person who owns it has no use for the house, but they want to keep the property. So what I got to do is look to buy a property, find somebody who's going to actually lift up the entire house, which is going to be crazy, and then I guess I have to build a foundation or something, and then basically move it to its new location and renovate the house.
Wow.
Yeah, it's abandoned. Like it's not in like totally rough shape, but it needs work. But I just think it would be a really cool project, and it's also super haunted. So that would be a bonus too. I could invite people to come and like stay the night, and I can go and basically film there.
Please don't invite me.
No, you wouldn't do anything like that?
No, I'm scared.
No.
I don't want to move the podcast studio there either.
Oh man.
I'm in.
But yeah, I think it would just be it would be a really, really interesting idea that I'm kind of working working on at the moment. So, yeah, right now, I think it's kind of happening everywhere, including the United States, but interest rates are out of whack.
Right.
Are you noticing an effect from that, like on the business? Has it slowed you down at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So, prior to this interest rate hike, people used to do stress tests, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of B lenders didn't really do stress tests. It was primarily the top 5 banks for prime mortgages. And, when you do a stress test and you're getting a mortgage, you don't really think about, could it get this high?
Yeah.
Right. And it did. It did. So a lot of people are having a hard time getting approved. A lot of people that even bought last year are coming back to me wanting to sell their homes because, their mortgage is $3,000. Now it's like $4,000,
Right.
it's a big difference. Right. But no, I mean, there's a lot less inventory now, but yes, there's not as many buyers either. Definitely. Interest rates are high. I think it's the highest it's been since
the 80s.
Yeah, since the 80s. Yeah.
Back when that was back when Pierre Trudeau was around, and things kind of hit the fan at that point. I think interest rates were at one point like almost 20% or something like that. And that was just on mortgages, right? There was a lot of people who lost their homes real fast because on a 20% mortgage, even at the time, even if mortgages were only like 100, 200K, that's a lot of money back then.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So, so it's slowed down. So up until during COVID, things were kind of like still good, and then after that it kind of started to...
So up to about March 2022 was like the peak, right? And then they started raising interest rates after that,
right?
So then it kind of just slowed down, and now it's slower than ever. Like you don't really have buyers out, right? I think there was a statistic that said 27% of first-time buyers are borrowing money from their parents, right? And that's all good and great, but like when it comes down to paying the mortgage, are you going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So you got a lot of people looking for secondary dwellings, based on apartments, maybe Airbnb-ing it. But no, the market slowed down a lot, but there's also a lot less inventory. But don't get me wrong. Homes that are nicely presented, that are renovated, they're still selling and they're going. It's just the crappy homes that are still staying on the market. Right. So it's not like doom and gloom. Homes are still selling in this market, right? But they can pick and choose now, right?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I remember in I think it was 2022, there was houses that, I kid you not, these houses, I remember because I've been living in that area since 97. And originally my grandfather bought his home for, I think it was about 200 or something like that. The one across the street in 2022 sold for 1.5, right? And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, this is insane. And now you're having a lot of young people who, we've had this conversation before, a lot of young people who are trying to enter the market just to buy their own first home, and they can't do it. Like you were saying, they're having to look for rental options. Right. But now the issue is that all the rent is going up. More and more people keep coming in, and I'm not against immigration. I am literally the product of immigration.
Same here.
Right? I think we all are, all our parents or grandparents or whatever are all immigrants to this country. But there comes a point in time where we have to slow things down. And I don't think that they should be doing it in a way that destroys the demand, which is exactly what they're doing. That's how you slow inflation down. You create what's called demand destruction, right? So that way people stop wanting to buy things. If a house all of a sudden is unaffordable, whether you're paying too much money into interest rates or whether the cost of the house or both combined are just simply too much, like you said, because now they're doing these crazy stress tests and people can't handle it, you're going to basically end up with, a recession, which they haven't admitted yet, but let's just agree that we're pretty much almost there.
Yeah.
Like it's right around the corner. They just don't want to see the big R word, right?
Yeah. So what they're actually doing now is the top 5 banks, they're actually calling customers and they're trying to lock them in at mortgages at like 6%.
Damn.
For like a fixed for 3 to 5 years. And I've never heard of banks calling customers to lock in. So
weird, yeah.
I mean, listen, you've rode the wave this long.
Yeah.
Just wait it out, For you to lock in for 3 years at 6%, my recommendation is
why are they doing that?
Well, obviously they know they're going to drop them in the next 6, maybe a year, right?
I don't know, man. I'm hearing kind of the contrary to that. I'm hearing a lot of people saying that this is going to go on for the next 4 to 5 years, and it's probably going to get even uglier, and the interest rates are probably going to go to 8 to 10%, right? I mean, if it happened in the 80s, who's to say it won't happen again? Right. I mean, they implemented a lot of bad policies back then. They've done the same thing over the last 4 to 5 years, and now we're starting to see the same results that happened back then.
It's all relative, right? I mean, I agree with you. If they get to 8 to 10%, that was in the 80s. You can't do that now. Homes are at $1 million, right? You can't put it up to 8 to 10%. It's if they do that, everything rides on the real estate industry, especially in the GTA, right? And if you go to other countries, they don't look at real estate as a business. But everybody in the GTA looks at real estate as a business. Flipping homes, getting to Airbnbs, short-term rentals, long-term rentals, everything like that. You go to Europe, there's condos on the market for 2-3 years before they're sold, right? Agents are part-time because there is no business, right?
Okay.
It's just how GTA is structured. Everything is based on real estate. It makes our city go round. So
will that ever change here, do you think?
No. I don't think so.
It's just always going to be the same thing over and over again.
Skyscrapers, condos, pre-construction, all this immigration coming in. We're not building enough homes. And we have nobody in trades to build these homes.
That's what I was about to say.
So it's a difficult conversation to have. And all these politicians are saying they're going to do this and that and this and that, and they're letting in 1 million people. Like, good luck. We're going to be playing catch up forever.
Yeah, we're being put into a very bad situation, mainly like you said, because there's nobody who wants to build the homes, right? Nobody wants to work anymore. Young people need to go and work, do like what our parents did, right? Like my family, busted their asses. A lot of people in my family were all construction. We have tons of electricians, right? They all make fantastic money. Their knees hurt after 30 years, but they got great pensions at the end of the day, and it's an option, right, for people who don't want to be stuck at a dead end job, whether it's some crappy retail job. I was going to say real estate job, but that's not what I meant to say. But if they don't want to get stuck at
there's some crappy moments.
I bet. But people need to smarten up, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But what kind of crappy moments have there been? Like what are some of the trials and tribulations that you would say that you've been through, from starting the business up until now?
Well, I think a lot of people have the misconception that we're door openers. We open the door. Here's the bedroom. Here's the bathroom, right? But we are like the liaison between the buyer, the seller, the lawyer, the mortgage agent, the appraiser, the home inspector, the insurance agent. This is just for one deal, right? And you're taking care of everything from when you sold the house to closing, making sure everything's in place so that you can successfully close the transaction. There's a lot of moving parts that people don't realize, and they don't know it because we're doing it behind the scenes, right? I'm not gonna complain and talk to my seller or buyer about every little thing that I'm doing because they're not gonna understand fully because it's my job to do, right? But there's a lot of moving parts that have to do with the real estate transaction, and I think that we don't get enough credit for putting those pieces together. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I imagine there's probably a lot of work. I mean, you got to go and take photos, and you got to make sure it's staged properly, and even just that alone probably takes you forever, really.
Right. Well, I think me being in real estate for 12 years, I could call my lawyer right now and he can answer me a question, right? I mean, having those connections in real estate over the last 12 years is really, really important. And it's just important having the right people around you to have the questions answered, right? If I'm in a pickle right now where a deal's not closing, I can call my lawyer and he can answer. Most lawyer offices are closed 9 to 5. You're not going to get a hold of a lawyer, right? So it's important to have these pieces as well in the business.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the lawyer part, because I remember once I called a lawyer on a Sunday and he yelled at me for calling him on a Sunday. And I'm like, listen here, you piece of shit. If I work on a Sunday, you work on a Sunday too, okay? I don't care. But I feel I get what you mean, man. It's sometimes it's hard finding good people to do exactly what they need to do, right?
There's a lot of trials and tribulations in real estate, though.
Oh, I can imagine.
Like there could be deals that fall apart 3-4 times, and the person in the transaction doesn't even know. And and they're not going to know it
Oh.
because I don't want to worry them. I
Yeah,
don't want to
exactly.
tell them all these things that, you know, if I can fix it, then they don't really need to know.
Yeah.
Right.
Can you give us an example of that? What
Yeah.
could have
So I had a buyer recently that, so, you know, as interest rates go up, home prices go down. That's just the general aspect
Yeah.
of things. Right. So if I sell a home in February for $1 million and interest rates went up 3 times, now that house is worth 900. The problem is, and this is another tip and trick, what happens is when somebody buys a house, they do the appraisal about 2 weeks before closing. What I try to do is, whoever my buyer is, I try to get them to do the appraisal the week of, because I need him to appraise the house in today's current market, not what the market's going to be in 3 months.
Right.
And that's how you save deals. If they do appraisal today, we're good. If they do appraisal 3 months from now, we're not going to be good.
Yeah.
So this buyer was short 100K, didn't tell my sellers, right? I ended up getting him in contact with a mortgage broker I knew, and he actually got him the money, right? This happened over weeks before closing.
Yeah.
And my seller had no idea, but I put it all together and I got the deal done, right? There's just little things like that happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's I feel like that's every kind of business. If you run into a small little problem, you don't need to go, telling the world that there's a little bit of a problem,
100%.
right? So it happens. Have you ever thought about doing anything else? Like, has it ever crossed your mind where you're just like, no, I don't really feel like doing this anymore. Maybe I'll go do, I know you did other stuff, which we'll get into,
Right.
Because it sounds really, really interesting. That I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, has it ever crossed your mind maybe doing something else, or do you plan on doing any other like side projects in the future?
Have I thought about it? I mean, I feel like in any business you're in, you start thinking about doing other things, right? You always want better for yourself. You're always trying to get to the next step. But I think more so what I'm looking into is how to advance within real estate, not to get out of it, but to try to implement things that help me grow within the business, right? Whether it be becoming a solo agent to running a team to becoming an office manager or stuff like that. I think everything is real estate related because I just love the freedom. Like I love the fact that, I don't have to be anywhere 9 to 5. Nobody's breathing down my neck, which is also a gift and a curse because you got to be very disciplined in order for you to run a business like that. Right. So no, I haven't really thought about leaving the business. Do I have other like side projects and hustles? Yes, I do. Yeah. Like my brother and I are opening up a car dealership.
Oh, nice.
My dad's been in the business for a very, very long time. So we're just kind of starting that up. Right. But no, as you get older, you want to do other ventures, right? They always say you don't want one stream of income.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. I find everybody who's like somehow involved in business always has the same line, right? Like never stop at one line of business. Because if that one line of business goes down one day and you don't have the others to, kind of cover your own ass at the end of the day.
That's right.
It's just like most people with just regular employment. If you lose your job, what are you going to do? Right. I hope you got at least 3-4 months worth of income in the bank just to kind of hold you over in case
most people don't.
Exactly. Right. And that's a scary thing because most people nowadays are literally living paycheck to paycheck, and if things don't change soon, then I don't know, we're in big trouble. A lot of people are claiming there's an election coming, and I don't know if I agree with that. Even if there is one, like they're not going to, even if we get a new government, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Right. Realistically, all the damage has been done. What are they going to do? It's going to take years. It's going to take at least 2 terms to literally solve a lot of the problems, and they won't even really solve all of them. Right.
I agree.
But yeah, like I said, the damage has been done. What do you think of the Alberta markets? Because a lot of people are moving out there. Is it a good prospect? Like, would it make sense for somebody like myself or maybe Moshi to go and purchase a home out there?
I don't know too much about the Alberta market, but what I do know is prices are cheap, right? Now you got a lot of the Toronto agents pushing pre-con in Alberta, right? There's a couple of key things that Alberta real estate has that we don't have, which is land transfer tax. They don't have that.
Oh, okay.
Right? 5% down, you can get away with that. But 5% down, 200K, you just need 10K to buy a property. It's insane.
Yeah.
Right?
That's wild.
But the big reason why agents here are pushing Alberta property is just affordability, right? But my whole thing is, and I've heard of this, these condo developers, they're limiting how many buyers are coming from Ontario, right? Because you're not going to sell out a whole building to Ontario people, then it's going to be a whole rental building, right? Yeah. So they subsidize like 20 or 30% for those people, and then the rest they have to sell with locals. So, yeah.
That makes sense.
But I know a lot of people that moved to Alberta and they came back to Toronto. They don't like it, but
no. They probably just don't like the winters. I mean,
Yeah,
minus 40
yeah.
degrees Celsius, constant cracked windshields because I don't know if you're aware, but they don't use salt in Alberta because salt doesn't work when it's that cold. So they put gravel. So literally everybody
wow.
has to change their windshield like once, twice. There was actually an Uber driver and he's like, yeah, this is the third time this year that I've had to change the windshield. So it's hilarious. But I mean, it's got its pros and its cons. Apart from the cold, it's beautiful. The air is very different. It's not very humid. But yeah, the homes out there are like drastically cheaper. Like there was an area that we were staying in, an area called Airdrie, and 5 years before now, basically, the homes there were sold for about $500,000, and now they're about 650. So it's not like it's gone up drastically, but from what I'm hearing, it kind of slowly is. So everywhere is kind of feeling the same effects. Plus, there's just not, enough companies building new houses out there, mainly in Ontario. Alberta doesn't really have that big of a problem yet, but it's happening. And then there's Vancouver, which is just a whole other ball game at that point with their, fancy California style houses and all that fun stuff.
the thing is, even these million immigrants that are coming to Canada, a lot of them go to various different provinces, but I think it was a statistic like 60 or 70% of them end up coming to Ontario because of the workforce.
Yeah.
Right. Now, going back to you saying, the house was $500,000, went up to 650. I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
You can't have houses going up 200,000-300,000 year over year. It's not sustainable.
Right.
And it sucks. Like it's not fair to everybody. Right. But the people that own are not going to say anything. They're already making money. So the people that are really stuck in the dirt are the first time buyers, the people that are buying recently, trying to get into the market, right? And I really feel for those people that bought during the height of the market because they've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars already.
Right.
Right. And you got these young families with kids and they're just trying their best to make it. And, the government failed them, right? Big time. Right. Imagine having a kid and knowing you lost $200,000 on your home. Like, come on, like that's not fair. And it's not right. So, and another thing is even with the real estate market, you can buy a car for $5,000. You can go to a mechanic and you can check it out. We're buying homes for millions of dollars and we're giving up the chance to do an inspection because we have to put firm offers. That shouldn't happen. I think they did this in Vancouver, but I feel like every home purchase should have a mandatory inspection.
Yeah, of course.
You need to know what you're getting yourself into. If I can buy a car for $500 and go check it out at a mechanic, I should be able to check out $1 million home to see what I'm buying into, right?
So I guess I'm ignorant about that. I would have thought that with an appraisal comes an inspection.
No.
Not at all.
So the appraiser with the bank just basically takes a look at the home and just basically makes sure it's there for mortgage fraud. And they also just want to make sure that everything you're saying about the house is correct, right? The appraised value versus what you bought it for are sometimes different, but they put it against other homes in the area that sold just like we do.
Okay.
But an appraisal is not an inspection, right? But even an inspection, like they can't take down walls. They basically go around with the moisture meter, making sure that water's not seeping in.
I see.
They check the AC, the furnace, the water heater.
Okay.
They check the appliances, making sure the water's running in all the bathrooms, stuff like that. And then they take a look on the outside to see if there's anything wrong with the foundation, right? Which is the major component of doing inspection. So
in our market, it's just so hot that people are just foregoing it or they don't think about it.
Well, during COVID,
who's going to do it?
I didn't do an inspection for almost 3 years during COVID, right? And I'm talking about 30, 40, 50 transactions where I didn't do an inspection.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now they're coming back, thankfully. But, you're buying homes at a fraction of the cost now. So you could make up and fix those things you need to fix. But when you're buying a home for $1.4 million, like you should know what's wrong with the house.
Yeah, certainly.
So
100%. So when it comes to doing real estate, would you say that it is worth it?
I think it's a generalized question because to me, yes, it's worth it, but you got to be willing to put in the work.
Of course.
Right? A lot of people during COVID, again, They got their licenses. They watch Selling Sunset. They're like, I'm going to do all these deals. And they get into real estate and they're pleasantly surprised because everybody knows 3 to 5 agents, their brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever it may be, right? And there's even times that I'm up against a family member, right? But I got to tell them like, hey guys, like you need to use me because I know what I'm doing, right? These people during COVID have never even done an inspection. They don't even know what a buyer inspection is because they got their license during COVID.
Right.
They don't know what it's like to have a house sitting on the market for 3-4 weeks and not knowing what to do to market and promote it, right? But yeah, you got a lot of these agents that came through during COVID. And listen, if you're willing to put in the work, then yes, do it. I always tell people you got to treat this as a job. You know, if you're at a job, you're working 9 to 5, you got a boss breathing down your neck. The thing is, with the freedom of real estate, people will wake up at 11, wake up at 12. They wake up, watch TV, whatever. You know, you got to be very disciplined in order to do this business, just like any other business. So is it worth it? Yes, if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah, just like anything, I'd say. Just like YouTube in the beginning. Yeah. Not worth it. But I had to put in a lot of the effort to be able to get where I am today. And realistically, it's kind of funny because like I don't have to go and film something tomorrow, for example, but I've gotten so used to it and so routine that if I don't, I will slowly start losing my mind. It'll feel like I'm doing something wrong because I'm not, you know, out there actually doing something productive. Like I can't be home anymore and just do nothing. I can't take days off. It just doesn't work for me anymore. I have to literally force myself. Like if I have to go to Florida and then designate, you know, a few days to go and lie on a beach or something or wherever, Dominican, whatever it might be. But yeah, you have to have that sort of mindset.
Discipline mindset. Yeah.
Where even when you're not broke, work like you're broke because you're only going to benefit yourself. But don't do it to the point where you're going to make yourself sick because, you know, stress is a real factor and you don't need to kill yourself. But, you know, I think people could do things if they really want to succeed, whether it's real estate, YouTube, business. I think they could grind steady for 3 to 5 years without really having to stop. Take little breaks here and there, obviously. Good for your mental health. But I think anybody could really succeed if they really wanted to. But majority of people probably will not, right? Most people will fall just like any business. Would you ever recommend doing real estate to somebody else? Would you have to be like selective? Who, like, let's say you knew a friend who was not really doing anything, but you know they want to do something unique with their life. They want maybe like a unique job or business. Would you be selective in recommending something that you're doing right now to a person like that? Or would you recommend it to anybody in general?
The thing about real estate is there's so many faces, there's so many different aspects of real estate, whether you want to do leasing, whether you want to do commercial, whether you want to do residential, whether you want to do short-term rentals. Real estate's a people business, right? Like I told you before, it's not about what you know, who you know. I think anybody could do real estate, to be honest with you, right? But again, you got to put in the work and you have to be, I think in this market, you have to be an expert in something. You know, you can't just generalize yourself. You got to be able, are you good with, you know, upsizers? Are you good with downsizers? Are you good with young families? Are you good with older people that are looking to downsize from their condo to their home, right? I think with agents now, I think they need to find a niche in terms of what they're doing. And in that niche, that's where they'll get the golden nuggets to kind of perform and do better, right? Because if you're a general of everything and you're generalizing everything you do, then you're not really going to find that market that you're good with, right? An accountant might not be a good person to talk to because maybe he's an introvert. But goddamn, I want to work with him because his numbers are amazing. If he's doing a short-term rental and he's putting numbers down for me, I want to work with this guy because his numbers are precise, right? He went to school for this. He has a background in it. You know, it's different than me working with some odd 30-year-old that just had a job before and just got into real estate but doesn't really know numbers. Everybody has their own niche and their own expertise. So anybody could get into real estate. You just got to find out what you're good at and incorporate that into the business, right?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I think that kind of covered my next question. If there was a person young or old today going into the business, what tips could you give them, maybe apart from what you kind of just said? Is there anything specific that you could suggest that would maybe benefit them doing the business?
Yeah. So call me. Because I'll help you out.
For
and
sure.
No, secondly, I wish what I did when I got into real estate was join a team. Because when I got into real estate, I was doing everything on my own. I kept calling my broker. I kept calling everybody in my office for questions. But if I had a team and I had somebody that I was splitting my commission with, they're involved in the transaction too. So they're more willing to give me the right answers, right? So I think joining a team is very beneficial because not only are you going to get leads, well, hopefully you get leads from your team member, but you're going to get leads. You're going to have a direction. You're going to have somebody teaching and coaching you what you need to know. And overall, you're just going to learn the business that much quicker, right? Joining a team is, I think, top notch for new agents. I think they need to learn it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they could always join your team, right?
Yeah,
'Cause you
absolutely.
said, so you're involved in a brokerage right now in which area was it?
So I'm at property.ca. I just joined them recently, like 3 weeks ago. So what's happening is I'm heading up their north team in Simcoe County. The thing is, we own 3 different websites: lofts.ca, condos.ca, property.ca. So we get a lot of online leads. And the thing is, this brokerage has nobody in the north. So what I'm doing is I'm creating a team. I'm trying to grow this thing to like maybe 15 to 20 members by the end of next year. And we just got a lot of leads from up there. So I'm going to be transitioning the leads to these agents so they can close deals as well. So they're busy, you know. What kind of team leader would I be if nobody was eating? You know, I know people have families, people have, you know, mouths to feed. So I think it's super important to feed who's on your team, right? And I don't want to grow the team so big where there's not enough to go around. I'd rather be very selective and have a smaller team that's performing versus having 30 people, but only 15 of them are performing, right? So the team is a 400 Realty Group.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how many people do you have there right now, like that are part of your team?
I actually just started the team last week.
So
I've had like 9 agent interviews. I already have 3 people that said okay, they want to join. So I'm literally just taking this off like very, very recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And it kind of makes sense what you said, that no one's really serving the north, because I'm finding because the prices of homes down here have skyrocketed to amounts like, you know, like in Brampton alone, they're like 1.2 to 1.4 million right now, just for an average home, which is insane. I'm finding a lot of people are looking for other options. So they're looking further north. I know one friend right now, he's looking in Midland, right?
Yeah,
He's finding, he found like a beautiful home for like, you know, $600,000 or something, which is fantastic. Yeah, you can find them. But like you said, somebody's got to service them, right? So if you're looking for a home up north, call Vany.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll leave his Instagram in the description below, of course. If you're from the GTA or anywhere in Ontario and you're looking to buy, then definitely look at that. So you mentioned something before the show, misconceptions of real estate. So I know you've gone through a couple of them, but just explain a little bit further, like what are some of like the most common misconceptions that people think?
Well, you know, I'm gonna kind of tie this in that people say we get paid too much money, right? You know, on an average deal of $1 million, we get 25,000 commissions.
Okay.
Right. Now people just think we take this and we go spend it. You know what I mean? You know, you got to take a look at 30% goes to taxes, right? 20% goes into marketing, right? You're looking at from that 25, it's down to 12.5. On top of your brokerage splits, brokerage fees per month, right? There's all of these things that come into, you know, that incorporate into this. And on top of all of that, the average agent does a deal every 2 months. So if you're running all those numbers, the guy is making $5,000 a month, right? Which is an average job, right? But the goal in real estate is to get to the 20, 30, 40 deals to have that team and to kind of, you know, make more money. But as a solo agent that's making these commissions, they're not making as much money as they think. We're not just taking this 25 grand and putting it in the bank and like that's it, right? We got to pay taxes on that money. So
yeah, absolutely. I think people think that real estate agents sell like, you know, 20, 30 homes like a week or something, right? Like you probably wish, but
I wish.
That'd be nice.
I'd be too busy to be on the phone.
You'd be like, screw you, I don't need to come on your show. But it's I feel you. I feel like people totally misunderstand. I find people do that a lot with business in general, especially when somebody actually manages to become successful in what it is that they're doing, they think like, oh, this person's, making way too much money, or they're greedy, or they're this or they're that. And it's like, no, dude, like we're just, out here busting our ass for the most part. I mean, some people do get lucky, but for the most part, it's not common to get lucky in reality nowadays, right? You got to really, especially like now, it's probably even harder now because the markets are so saturated. Like you said, there's 100,000 agents that you're competing with just in the GTA alone. I mean, majority of them are not probably, making as many sales or as consistent as you might be, but yeah, it's definitely tough out there. But yeah, so tell us more about like you said you did, what was it? The all ages events. What was that about that you did back in the day?
Yeah. So, I got into, all ages events with my brother. We owned a company called Untouchable Events, UT Events. I actually started promoting when I was in grade 8. I was 13, selling all ages tickets. Honestly, it's because of my brother, obviously. But yeah, I used to go out and flyer schools, high schools. I used to go out and get the tickets, the flyers, get into all of that. But we grew really quickly. Like we had exclusive events at government, at Circa, at Lot 332. We did all ages events all over. We actually did the official MMVA after party. We did an event with MTV. We were pretty big at one point. By the time I was 17, I was managing 300 promoters.
Wow.
That's nuts.
And the reason why we got big is we kind of flipped the script. We were like, how are we going to get so many people to come out to these events? And we're like, there's so many DJs in Toronto that want to make it big. Why not get all of these DJs to come out, put them on the flyer? They're going to DJ at this gig for free, and they're going to be selling tickets because they want all their friends to come, right? So we did that for a very long time. We were doing anywhere from 12 to 15 events a year, and the biggest event we did was at government. We did 8,700 people.
Oof, damn.
8,700 people we did, and I was only 18 at the time. My brother was 22. But yeah, we did some numbers back then. It was really fun, man. It taught me a lot in terms of business, getting to know people, contracts, tickets, marketing. It definitely translated a lot into what I'm doing now. So
yeah, definitely teaches you how to socialize, which is a large part about what you do. And I guess what I do, because I have to talk all day long on cameras, because it would be a little bit awkward if I was going around not saying a single thing, right? So in terms of social media these days, do you find it easier to promote yourself using social media now than maybe when you started? Because it's changed so much, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I got into real estate when I was 21, I mean, nobody was thinking about real estate, right? My first transaction ever was I was playing soccer down at Central Park High School, right off Kennedy. And we were just playing soccer, and I'd just been licensed for maybe 2 weeks, and we were just kicking around. And then some guy had mentioned like, yeah, he's like, I've been looking at houses. So beep, just went up straight up to him, like, listen, I'm like, I just got,
by the way,
I'm like, I knew him, right? I'm like, hey, like, I just got my license. Like, oh, really? I'm like, listen, I don't know anything, but what I will tell you is like, I'm going to work my ass off to try to get you this house. So I found out if he had signed anything with his agent, which he did, and he ended up buying a house off me a week later. So I did my first transaction like 3 weeks in, but I never did a transaction until 6 months later. Right. Just because, again, I was 21, nobody's really thinking about real estate. I was doing mostly like small time leases, right? But I'm happy I got into it when I did, right? Again, it's about your network and who you meet. So you got to put yourself out there for sure. Social media is huge though, because just like you messaging me on Facebook and getting, obviously getting me out here, I got people that I haven't spoken to in 12, 15 years, and they're messaging me like, hey, Vany, like, we want to sell or we want to buy. And, as much as I want to say, like, it's been so long, I'm helping these people, but it's just really cool to see that it's been so long and I'm still helping them out, right? Some of these people I haven't seen since like grade 6, grade 7, elementary school, So Social media is great
Yeah.
for any business, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if they know who you are, they're automatically going to be like, oh, I'll just go to Vany, like I did years ago, right? With the restaurant, for example, when we were trying to take care of that whole thing. But
people call me VK Real Estate now. Like, that's my name.
Oh,
like,
yeah?
Yeah, like my Instagram, they call me, hey, VK Real Estate. Like, that's what they call me. They don't even call me by my name anymore.
That's hilarious.
Just because I've had it for like 12 years, right?
Yeah.
They either call me VK or like VK Real Estate. It's like embedded now. So
Yeah. So let's try and not get a biased opinion on this, but is it better to sell private or through a realtor?
I'm not going to give a biased opinion. Honestly, in the very, very hot market, you could have probably sold privately, but there is connotations with that. Right. Do you have the connections to do the full videography? Do you know what kind of twilight photos to take to make your house stand out? Do you have a flyer company to print flyers? Do you know how to negotiate at the table? Do you know what a deposit looks like? Do you have a lawyer you're going to use? There's so many in-depth things that a normal private seller wouldn't know, right? And the biggest thing, if you're selling private, how do you know you're not leaving money on the table? You might know this house sold a week ago for 1.4 million, but what you might not know is the same house sold yesterday for 1.55 million. And you just sold the house not knowing that for 1.4. When you find that out, you're going to be like, I wish I would have paid an agent, right? So could you sell privately? Yeah, but you got to really, check mark all the boxes and make sure you know what you're doing, because leaving money on the table is huge, especially in real estate, right? Instead of paying somebody an extra 10K, but you're losing 150K, you're going to kick yourself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. I would say always use a realtor just because of the connections and things like that. Could you get away with selling privately at one point? Maybe, but it's a risk, right? It's a risk.
Yeah, I guess I mean, obviously you're providing a service, right? So like you said, you're connected to all these different things. You have everything's ready for you on the fly. You got the lawyers ready, the banks ready, this ready, that ready. Would it make more sense for like people who do the whole house flipper type of thing to do private sales, I guess, if they have a handle on what it is that they're doing?
No. The reason being is home flippers are trying to maximize profits. They're probably buying a property for $1 million, investing 150, 200K, and they're probably selling it for 1.5. Right. With that being said, with such small margins, you want to use a real estate agent because we put the house on the multiple listing service. That's going to get you the most exposure that you can ever get. And the whole point of flipping homes, you want to maximize your exposure and get it to every single buyer out there. Right. If you don't do that, you might have the one buyer you're missing that's willing to pay you the extra $100,000, right? So having it on MLS is very, very important to get all the buyers, to get all the eyes seen on your property, right?
Now,
most investors work with a specific agent that bought them the house. They have deals, they're going to sell them the house. So I don't know any investor that does this privately. Yeah, they all work with an agent.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a guy, right? Everybody's got a guy. I got a guy. You got a guy? You got a guy?
I need a guy.
I got a guy right here. So, do you have any plans to start your own brokerage in the future? Is that something you want to do?
Right now, I'm just focused on building out the team. I've seen a lot of top agents actually go out and build their brokerage, and they ended up going back to where they originally were. Why? Because it's just so much overhead. Right. If you're giving a real estate company 10% of your commission, 50% of your commission, whatever it may be, you have an admin staff, you have a brick and mortar, you have, a broker of record that's dealing with all the paperwork. If you're going to open up your own brokerage, you're going to be your own broker of record. You have to make sure all of the paperwork is in order. You have to hire a receptionist $50K a year. You have to hire an admin for $50K a year. Off the bat, you're in $200K and you got to do those deals in order to make up the money. Why would I do that if I can just give up $50K a year to an office that's already made, right? That's the thing. It's just a lot of overhead. So no, I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, maybe it just makes a little bit more sense to get some small little unit, something like this.
Yeah.
Right? So you're still playing soccer?
Yeah, I mean, I played up to like 6 months ago. It's just living in Innisfil.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, they play here, right? I'm not going to drive 3-4 hours to play 20 minutes of soccer.
Yeah, no,
right?
Kidding.
I go to the gym a lot, but playing soccer has been like on the back burner. And I feel like now, I mean, I'm 33 now, but like just injuries.
Yeah.
Like you feel it.
You don't heal as
know?
fast as you used to.
Soccer
right?
is one of those things that it's the hardest sport, like on your joints, on your knees, right? So it's tough. It's tough. I miss it though. I mean, I haven't played in 6 months, but I miss it. Definitely.
Oh, I know. Even before the show, I was saying like it's been probably since last year since I played, and I used to play 2-3 times a week easily. Right. I remember at one point we were playing together, and then we were playing against each other. But yeah, it was so much fun. I definitely do miss it. Did you ever do any other sports? What? Sorry.
Even like just playing soccer. Just you know, a lot of my business comes from playing on those teams over the years,
sure.
right?
You make all sorts of random connections with random people, right? So you said at some point you owned clubs, like you actually owned the locations?
Yeah. So we, I'm going to say back in 2011, we owned a nightclub called Traffic Nightclub and Palms Patio, which is right at the corner of Richmond and Peter, where Pizzaville used to be.
Okay.
We had that place for a few years, but now there's a condo there. So we ran it until the lease was up, and then they built condos, and then we had a place out in Hamilton called Hush Nightclub. Okay. So I was managing both. I used to be out like 4 or 5 nights a week. It's a horrible way to live.
Oh, I can only imagine.
You're out
You've
at
probably
the club.
seen some shit, no?
Yeah, I don't know if I could talk about it, but no. You know, you're at the club at like 6 p.m. setting up. You're not getting home till 6 a.m. You know, you're waking up at 3-4 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not a nice way to live.
No.
It's not fun. Right. It was fun, but it's, you know, when you get to a certain age, it's not fun anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
It's at some point, it's just like soccer. At some point, you got to just, you know, call it a day, right?
Boots.
Hang up the boots and move on.
Unless you're Ronaldo.
Unless I'm Ronaldo.
Play till you're 40.
Playing. Yeah, exactly. That was like Totti. Remember, I think he retired at 40.
Yeah.
Right. So I got his jersey. I got his jersey literally right over there, signed by him. Oh wow. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's a whole bunch. There's Maldini and all sorts of cool shit in there.
There's an Asian footballer. He just signed on for another year. He's 56 years old.
That's nuts.
He's still playing professional soccer.
That's amazing. Crazy. What did you say? 56?
He's 56, I believe. Yeah.
Like, where's he playing?
He's been playing professional soccer since he was 18.
Wow.
So he's been at it for almost 35 years playing professional soccer. That's cool. That's wild. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. Because most people play up to like 34, 35, and then they're just like, you know, okay, time to retire, right? And then you have like the legendary players who, if they stay in shape, they end up playing until like 36, 38, and then you have the odd ones that'll push it to like 40, 42. I remember even Van der Sar I think he was 42 when he retired at Man U, and then just called it a day after that. But I guess if you're like Ronaldo and Messi and those guys, and you're making big bucks, and you're playing in an easier league, realistically, it's like, why not? Why wouldn't I just keep playing for, you know, $700 million? So
Messi already has like 3 goals in the MLS, 2 assists. He's played like 100 minutes of soccer. I'm like, guys, it's the MLS,
right?
It's the MLS. It's
getting better, but I feel like MLS.
It's messy.
Yeah, of course, right? It was just like, I mean, there was a bunch of the old fogies who all came over to MLS, and either they just really didn't mesh well. Like I remember when Pirlo came, and he just, because his brain was ahead of everyone else on the field, that it just didn't benefit them because they couldn't read what he was going to do. A player that's so smart and so intelligent on the field, like you have to know how to work with those guys, right?
They're built different for sure.
Oh, 100%. But yeah, tell us where you came from, because you said you came in 93, I think, from Iraq.
Yeah. So I was born in Iraq, and we moved to like 5 countries before we came here. We moved from Iraq to Syria to Jordan to Turkey to Greece to Toronto.
That's wild.
So we've been around, you know. We got here in 93, 4ish, and it was a lot. Like I was born during the war, in the Gulf War, right, with Iran, and then the Kuwait War as well. So there's a lot going on there. A lot of people had to flee their homes and countries and stuff like that, you know. So that's why when we talk about like letting immigration here, like, yes, like obviously let people in based on what's going on at home, right?
But also just sorry to cut you off, but also don't leave them stranded on the streets of Richmond,
Yes.
living in tents,
Yes.
right? If you're
Yes.
going to invite people, make sure they're at least taken care of, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But, with the cost of living in Toronto, it's crazy because, my parents came here with no money too, but they kind of raised us the best way they could, I'm all for helping people, but I'm also like, we're sending all this money to Ukraine, but we're having people sleep on Richmond.
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I get it. Support like Ukraine, whatever, you're helping them. I get it. But why not help the people in your own country first?
Right.
Like, we have so many issues here that need to get checked upon, and we're sending all this money overseas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. At least allocate. We've sent millions of dollars. Allocate
Billions.
billions. Allocate 10% of what you're sending and help us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I mean, I have a little bit of a difference in opinion when it comes to Ukraine, which I'm not going to get into. But my opinion is don't send the money there and keep the money here and actually fix the problems we have at home.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
But that's for very specific political reasons because the war can be stopped, and that's basically what a lot of us want to see.
You're right.
But yeah, what was life like in Iraq before you so you were already there before the war started, or were you born during the war?
I was born during the war. I was actually born in a church because they weren't allowed to bomb churches at the time.
Wow.
But then they started doing it, so that's why we had to flee, and that's why we went to Syria. Right. I don't really remember much. I was pretty young. But this goes back to like just not taking anything for granted and having immigrant parents and seeing where they came from and looking at what they did versus, we think life is hard. And yes, it could be. I understand that. But given their destination, how they got here versus what we argue and complain about, it's a joke.
Right.
We don't really have problems.
Yeah.
We have problems that we think are problems, but be in their shoes, be in those problems.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that just goes back to just knowing where you came from, knowing, your uproots and dealing with life head on, and knowing where you came from and knowing how much worse it could be. Right.
Oh yeah, totally.
We got food on the table, we got a roof over our head, we got mics, we got earphones on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This stuff is all great. We're able to do this, and we got to be very, very grateful for that. So
oh yeah, every single day. Like I know a lot of the stories about like where my family comes from, and majority of my family is from, I mean, nowhere near like what your family had to go through, but like my grandmother on my dad's side, she saw World War II. She remembers, like she's told me, because I've asked her, I asked her, I'm like, no, do you remember anything about World War II? And she's like, yeah, I remember constant planes, the bombers, right, all the time. She also remembers, so we actually had an uncle of mine, would have been, I guess, my great uncle or great uncle. I'm not really sure. I think it was her uncle, so it would have been my great uncle. And she remembers that he was part of the Antifascista, which is essentially the OG Antifa, not like the pussy Antifa we have nowadays, but the real ones that opposed Mussolini back during World War II. And she just remembers when the fascistas, which were basically, the military henchmen of Mussolini, would go door to door looking for the rebels, which were the antifascistas, which would have been her uncle. So they were living in a big apartment building, and she just remembers as a little girl them having to take her uncle and then hide him on the roof of the apartment building so that way they wouldn't find him, because if they did find him, it would have been game over for him and probably the whole family, because you're harboring what they saw as a fugitive, right? And she just remembers as a little girl seeing them gather up the people they did find and take them into the city square, and then just one by one putting a bullet in each
Right.
person essentially. So
Right.
seeing those kinds of things and, you know, understanding and feeling blessed about where we come from and having the opportunities we do in this country. But I think the thing that people do complain and they should complain about is maintaining those things, right? Obviously there needs to be a balance, and obviously people bitch and moan about stupid shit like, you know, oh, my phone's not working properly today, the Rogers ripped me off, or something stupid like that, right? Where it's you know, first world problems. But understanding, like, obviously what you said, where your family comes from. My other family grew up with nothing, right? They were all vegetable and olive pickers down in southern Italy. And they would basically do it for room and board. And I just remember so many like crazy stories that they used to tell me when I was younger about how they grew up and had literally nothing. And then when I was 6 or 7, actually going back to the house that my grandfather lived in, and it was literally like half the size of this room, and they had 8 people living in there, right? And there was only 2 beds. There was no washroom. Well, there was a washroom. It was called the hole in the backyard where all the snakes were hiding. But it's like, how did you live? Like, how did you pull this off? But they did what they had to do, and then eventually they finally got on a boat that took 2.5 weeks to finally get here, landed in Halifax, Pier 21, and then eventually they took a train over to Toronto, and that's where they decided to land and start their lives, right?
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a story, and I just feel like, especially in Toronto, we live such a fast-paced lifestyle. You know, we're all going through things. I just think that everybody just needs to be a little nicer to each other, you know, and again, everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody's going through different things, and, you know, helping the person next to you, asking them how their day was, could literally save their life, you know,
Totally.
Especially in this day and age, and what we're going through now with all of, you know, cost of living. People are going through it, you know, and you guys both know the number one stressor of life right now is money, right? People can't even live, you know. So, you know, I just recommend, if you see somebody in line, ask them how their day's going. Like, just be a little bit nicer to each other, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Acknowledge people. What you gotta do is smile sometimes to make somebody's day better, because you actually acknowledge them. You don't know what that person's going through at the end of the day. Maybe they're having the worst day they could possibly be having in their life, and maybe they're thinking of doing something really, really awful to themselves at the end of the day. I know I've been through it, and being acknowledged sometimes is enough to actually save a person's life. Realistically, I mean, this shit's getting a little bit deep, but it's true. I actually
have a small story. So I was at Square One. This might have been like a year ago, and I was at Freshly Squeezed, and I got a carrot juice, and I ended up paying it forward for the person behind me. So as I was waiting for my juice, there was an older lady, and they were like, you know, how much is it? He's like, don't worry, like, that guy paid for you. She started crying. She came to me and she hugged me for like 30 seconds. She's like, thank you so much. I had the worst day ever, and I was asking God to make my day better like 10 minutes ago.
Wow.
And you just paid for my drink, and I'm so thankful for you. That's what she said to me.
Wow.
Right? And I'm like, holy smokes, you know? Just like one thing just changed somebody's perspective of everything, you know? So pay it forward.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes it doesn't take too much to really have a big effect on somebody's life, right? Maybe go and buy some hats and gloves and go give them to homeless people in Toronto. You remember doing that? We did that a long time ago.
I remember that.
Yeah, we had a little project idea called Project Hope, and we were just kind of like raising money, like a fundraiser.
Cool.
And
I like that.
Yeah, we went and bought a whole bunch of gloves, and we were just taking donations if that's what people want to do. Just donate the stuff. And then one day, a whole group of us just went downtown Toronto in the freezing cold, just giving out hats and gloves, right?
Yeah.
And socks, yeah. I mean, people really appreciate stuff like that, especially when they're going through hard times, especially now, right? I mean, there's so much going on, right? But yeah,
there's no better feeling that you get when you give back.
No,
like that wholehearted feeling that you get when you do something nice for somebody. Like that's a feeling of like purpose, you know, like helping other people. So I think it's super important.
Yeah, just being generous, and even if it's a couple of bucks to like a charity or whatever
you can do.
We went to go recently watch a movie called Sound of Freedom. I don't know if you heard of it.
I need to watch it.
You have to have to like absolutely have to go and watch that movie, because it will literally change your perspective on the world. but yeah, after watching that movie, like I donated a couple $100 to the charity of the guy who the story is about.
Right.
And there's just so many things going on, right?
Put it on the list.
Definitely. Yeah. You 100% have to go and watch that movie. And apparently Oppenheimer too, I'm hearing is really good.
Oppenheimer, yeah. Not Barbie.
No. Doesn't interest me, so I don't think I'd go and see Barbie.
Yeah.
But maybe Moshi would. I don't know if you're into that sort of thing.
One day, my daughter's probably going to want to watch it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Probably.
I don't know. I've been hearing kind of weird mixed things
Me
about
too.
it. But so you said you lived in other countries too, like Syria and where else did you
For
live?
a very small amount of time.
Yeah.
The biggest, the most amount of time I spent in the country before Canada was Greece. We lived there for a few years. My whole family speaks Greek.
Oh, okay.
They read, write. They also speak Arabic.
Right.
But my culture, I'm Assyrian. So my family's main language is Aramaic.
Okay.
Aramaic
Nice.
was Jesus's language,
Wow.
right? Only
Can you speak it?
I can't speak it, but I understand everything.
Oh, really?
But only 500,000 people in the world speak this language.
Yeah. Really?
It is dying,
That's
right?
wild.
Yeah. It's if you hear the language like on YouTube, whatever you put it on, you're gonna be like, wow, this is it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild to hear.
I gotta check that
Yeah.
out.
That was
Yes.
did they speak that language in the movie The Passion of the Christ?
Yeah,
I think
they did.
That's what it was, the
they
whole
spoke,
movie, right?
They spoke
Yeah.
Aramaic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which I think is what made it very unique in that respect,
Yeah.
because so few people actually can speak the language, and it was his
Yeah.
original language, right? So
Even our church, like when they say the gospel, whatever it is, they the way that they speak Aramaic is they kind of sing it, like they go you know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like how they used to do it. But yeah, Aramaic is a it's a different breed. The language is a different breed for sure. So
Now I gotta check it out.
yeah,
But what was Greece like? What do you remember from living
not
there?
much.
Not much.
But my parents go back every now and again, and I need to go back. I need to go back for sure.
Athens?
Maybe it'll bring some memories. Yeah, in Athens.
That's where they were, Athens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Greece back in grade 9 on one of the school trips, and friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
Greece is so cool. Some of the people are kind of weird though. I remember this. I don't know what the deal was, but there was this one lady, because we got lost. Because you're in Athens, you don't know the place, and we were just told to meet in this place called Syntagma Square. And basically, I went up to some lady, and I'm like, Miss, Syntagma Square, and she's like, no. And she just kept on walking, just like shoved her hand in my face. I'm like, okay, I didn't think I was that threatening, but it's amazing though, because it's like the whole city is completely made of marble, basically. Like all the sidewalks are all marble.
Wow.
Then what else did we do? We went to Olympia, I think, or Olympus, or whatever that city is called, where they had the
Colosseum and the
yeah, all the different old buildings and structures. There's the old running track in Athens. We did a 1-day cruise to a bunch of the islands, which if you've ever seen pictures, like
Santorini.
we didn't go to Santorini, but we went to one called Hydra. Absolutely beautiful. Like docking. I was like, oh my God, did I die and go to heaven? Like, where am I right now? Is God waiting for me? Like, what happened? Did we crash? But like, it's beautiful, right? Like it's the pictures that you see of the islands in Greece, like do not do it justice. But even Greece itself is like absolutely beautiful, as most of Europe is. But what do you remember, like when you first came to Canada? What was it? What was the feeling for you when you first got here?
I went to school. I went to JK here. So I started school coming here. I lived my first condo I ever lived at was 33 Kennedy Road. Okay. Right at Kennedy and Clarence.
Oh, wow.
That was a harsh neighborhood growing up into, you know? Yeah, it was a lot. Like there would be weird people everywhere, people knocking on our doors. We don't know who they are. They're like screaming at us. Like it was a lot. My mom like even was adjusting because this stuff didn't happen back home, right? All of a sudden you got like all these weird people like going through stuff, right?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I kind of just, I'm kind of Canadian. Like I grew up here, you know, I don't really remember much from back home, just the stories and whatnot, right? So, yeah. Grew up in Brampton my whole life. So.
Yeah, pretty much. So did you know English already by the time you got here?
No, I watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay.
But even then, that was really English. Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z growing up, I used to watch that a lot. Yeah. But no, TV is how I learned. There you go.
The hat I'm wearing right now is Dragon Ball Z.
How I learned, like when I came to Canada, I used to speak Arabic and Assyrian. But when I came to Canada, I started watching TV a lot and I lost it, right? So...
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, if you don't really speak the language very often, you start to kind of forget. Even like Italian, like growing up, because I've always lived with my grandparents,
Right.
always been around, a lot of my family, and I was like not super fluent in Italian, but
Yeah.
I could hold up a conversation most of the time in dialect. So if somebody spoke a different version of Italian, because there's so many dialects in Italian. There's like every city speaks its own language essentially. Like my family makes up words, right? They add utsu to everything, right? So it's like glass, so it's a glass utsu, right? So phone utsu, right? So that's just the way things were in the village that my family comes from.
Right.
So, but yeah, I used to know it pretty well. I do remember once there was this funny thing that happened when we were in Italy. We went to go visit our family over there. And so when people come to Canada, they have a habit, like, so I don't know how do your parents like have like a accent, and do they still speak Arabic to you for the most part?
Yeah. I know how to speak Arabic. I don't know how to speak Assyrian, but they still have accents. Yeah.
So did they ever Canadianize words?
All the time.
So they would like make it, they would say it with the accent, but it sounded like a legit word, right?
Yeah.
So I remember when we were in Italy, we were in my aunt's apartment, and I had to throw something in the garbage. And over here in Canada, I've always understood garbage as garbaggio, which sounds like a legit word in Italian, which is supposed to mean garbage, obviously. Right. So I go to my aunt and I'm like, Zia, dove sti la garbaggi? Which is like, where's the garbage? And she's like, huh? Ma che cazzo esti o garbaggi? Right? Like, what are you talking about? And my mom starts laughing. She's like, it's not garbaggi. That's not a real word, or garbaggio, or whatever the hell I said. She's like, the word is spazzatura. I'm like, wow, well, that's completely different from what the word you've been telling me since I was a kid, right? But yeah, it's pretty funny when people come to another country and they start like, making up these fake funny words. Like my grandmother to this day, like the converter, like the TV remote, she calls it the computer, right? Give me the computer, right? Yeah. So if she were to say that to the wrong person, they'd be like, the computer, and they would hand them like a laptop or something. But apart from that, what is a day in your life?
Being in real estate, every day is really different depending on closings, depending on clients. But I like to start off having a morning routine. I think it's super important. Just like how you said, you feel off when you don't do stuff for certain days, you know? So I like going to the gym in the mornings, right? Join the gym first thing, go to the gym, get my workout in, try to get that heart rate moving, right? And typically I get to the office probably around 9, do my calls, do whatever I need to do. And typically in the evenings, I'm out doing showings or I'm doing paperwork or something like that. But every day is different because things just come up all the time. What you think you have planned, it's probably not going to happen. Right? Client, you were supposed to show a house to on Friday. A house just came up. They really like it. They want to go see it today. Right? But I think scheduling and having a morning routine is important because, if you look at my schedule, it's all time blocked. So whether I'm doing one thing or the other, at least that time is blocked off. And even if I'm not doing it, I get reminders on my watch saying I'm supposed to be doing it. So it kind of keeps you on track, right? But having morning routine, I think, is super important. I think Jordan B. Peterson said, the best thing he does for his clients and people that, have a hard time sleeping, whatever, the number one thing he says to get on point is when you go to bed and when you wake up, having the same time that when you go to bed and when you wake up. He's like, people's lives have completely changed doing that one thing alone, right? So I think that's super important for anybody because, you're watching Netflix, you're watching TV, next thing you know, you want to watch the next episode. It's like 3 a.m, you ruin your whole day, So morning routine is super important for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I guess unless you're like me and you're up till 5 o'clock in the morning every night, going off into, haunted places or, random forests in the middle of the night. But I guess I'm consistent, right?
Yeah.
So
it doesn't matter when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, just as
Yeah.
long as you're consistent
Yeah,
enough,
exactly,
right? But
exactly.
no, I hate going to sleep super, super late, but sometimes you have to,
Yeah, you
right?
have
If
to,
you're off
for
doing
sure.
things late at night, like what else am I supposed to
Yeah.
do? That's just part of what I have to do and when I have to do
Exactly.
it, right? I got to go do those 3 a.m. ghost hunts.
Back to discipline, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm actually glad you brought up Jordan Peterson. I friggin' love that guy. Like,
Yeah,
just
me too.
A lot of the things that he says is just like, it's so simple too. It's like, clean your room. Just make sure you clean your room.
Yeah.
Right. Make your bed.
I'm reading his
right?
book right now, 12 Rules of Life.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So you got to reread some pages because
Mhm.
he really gets into it.
Yeah.
But I like it. It's good.
Yeah. And it's like sometimes the words that he uses are just like, what the hell is that even supposed to mean?
I have a
right?
Kindle, so you can actually just touch the word and it'll like explain
really?
the
Oh,
definition.
Oh, I didn't know that's
Yeah,
how it works.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So
yeah.
I like Kindles because at night you could close the room light
right.
and it's bright. Like
Yeah,
it has a backlight, so you
backlit.
could.
That's bad for your eyes though. No.
No, there's no blue light
Oh,
that
okay.
comes off it
Yeah,
at all. It
yeah.
just kind of shows like a paper, right? So it's very easy to fall asleep while you're reading
Yeah.
it, right? So I mean, I love my Kindle. I'd recommend everybody
Yeah.
get it. So
Do you listen a lot of or read a lot of like self-help kind of motivational type of stuff just to kind of keep yourself going?
yeah.
Apart from Jordan Peterson.
I mean, I'm reading him now. I just finished
Yeah.
reading David Goggins' book
Okay.
about how he was in the military and the
Mm.
shit that he went through is absolutely insane. You know, he said in his book he had to stay awake for like 7 days, and he
Oh
was
my
in the
God.
water, and he was lifting up this boat that he was in the water for. Like it was crazy what he went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. Like that's freaking intense. But yeah, that's
Because he's a Navy SEAL, you know. So
yeah. So was he a Navy SEAL, and is that it or?
he was a Navy SEAL, and he was part of SEAL 42, which is like a specialized group. But man, he went through it. But you know, it's his biography. There's
Yeah.
certain things you're like,
How true
is it? How true is it?
Yeah.
How real is it?
How
But
exaggerated is it?
I don't want to call him out because he's gonna yell at me, right? So,
Don't do it. Don't
no, I'm
do
kidding.
it.
I like him. Goggins
Yeah.
good.
I think Joe Rogan said he was one of the most intense people he's ever met.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can only imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're pretty much done. Probably gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys want, go and check him out on not this page, that page. There we go. It took a second to
Yes.
show up for some odd reason, but there is Vany's page on Instagram. His new name, obviously, which is VK
VK.
Real Estate, right?
Yeah. So my Instagram is VK Real Estate. I just launched 400 Realty Group, which is simcoeproperty.ca. I am taking on new agents. So if you're looking to get into the business or you're an agent trying to find your way, reach out, give me a call. Definitely lead you in the right direction. So
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, this is one random thing that I wanted to try. We've never done this on this show before, but what is everybody listening to these days, like music wise? What did you guys listen to on the way over here?
I'm listening to Anise right now. Do you guys know Anise?
Anise?
Anees.
No, what's that?
I think I've heard of
He
it.
has a song called Sun and Moon.
Never heard of it.
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's more of like a happy up tempo kind of music, but I like
Okay.
it. Yeah, listen to him. It's
What
really,
kind
really
of what kind of music is it? Like
I would say it's kind of like hip hop pop,
Yeah.
like something along those lines. But it's
Yeah.
very uplifting, so I like it. You know,
mhm. What about you?
I don't
Mo?
want to sing it.
What did you
'cause
listen to on
I'm
the way
gonna-
over?
I'm gonna clear up the room.
Something really loud.
Something pretty loud. This morning, I was finishing a playlist. Okay, so on the weekend, on Sunday, I went to a concert. It
Mhm.
was Under Oath, The Ghost Inside, We Came as
Oh, wow.
Romans.
Mm.
You know them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bullet from Valentine, like along those lines.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of, but better.
Yeah. I mean, I listen to old school rock. Like even on my playlist, I listen to like "With Me" by Sum 41.
Okay.
Like
Oh,
I listen
nice.
to stuff like that. Yeah, but
Mhm.
I know those bands. Sorry. keep
Yeah.
going.
No. It was the first concert in I think probably since before COVID that I went to, and we used to go to concerts a lot, you know. Anyway, so I finished that playlist, which was all of their albums and stuff, and then on the way here, it was probably a mix of the Beach Boys,
Mhm.
Elvis, because we're planning our daughter's first birthday, and it's like a Hawaiian theme. And then at some point, I was just driving and I was in traffic, and I'm like, I don't want to listen to this anymore, and I changed it to "Ride the Wings of Pestilence" by.
Oh, okay. That's a
From
very
first to last.
very heavy change.
It gets very loud.
Yeah, that happens to me too on my
Yeah.
playlist. I'll be listening to like John Denver, and then all of a sudden it'll play like a country song, like Tennessee whiskey, and then all of a sudden it's like Billy Talent or something, and then it's
go wrong
like
with
all
Billy
that
Talent.
remains, and then it's like back to like Elvis or
Yeah.
and then suddenly it's like people think I'm crazy because I listen to like the weirdest stuff sometimes. There's like one song that I started listening to, which is Blue Moon of Kentucky, and it's like bluegrass. So just to annoy my friends, because I knew they would be so annoyed when we were driving from Alberta to Vancouver, I was just like blasting this one song, and it's like Blue Moon of Kentucky. And they're like, what the fuck are we listening to? I'm like, what do you mean you don't like bluegrass?
I hope
It's
your windows are
amazing.
rolled up.
No, man, I keep my windows
Nah,
down.
yeah, me too.
So-
Me too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that is pretty much it for this episode.
Thank you for having
all.
me on.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
it.
Thank you so
I
much.
really like what you guys are doing here.
Yeah, I
Keep
appreciate
going
it.
with it. You know, I appreciate your hard work over the years, man. You've been killing it, both of you. So
Thanks.
keep it up. Keep doing it.
Thank you.
And I can't wait till you guys hit 100K on this one too. So
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, hopefully we will probably get there one day. I mean, having on interesting people like yourself who have
appreciate
a lot
that.
to say.
Thank you.
I feel like I learned a lot today. There was a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of things that I didn't really know about, you know, the way the real estate markets are going, and yeah, we'll probably talk more. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot
Perfect.
for coming
Thank
out,
you.
and
Thank you.
thank you to you guys at home for watching and listening. And again, like Mo said, we are on other platforms such as
Such as YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Remember, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you can leave a rating. So give us a 5-star rating if you like what we're doing here. And after that, hit up Rumble, which is the Brave podcast on Rumble, where we can talk more about things that we can't talk about on YouTube.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Doesn't
you.
he say? He just says it so elegantly.
Yes.
That's why I turned to him, because I'm never gonna say it like that. So
Yeah.
he's got that. Down
He has
pat
that
and
voice I
covered.
paid like $7 a minute for back in like 1996. Remember?
Totally.
Oh my God.
Man. All right, guys. Don't
All
forget
right.
to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and turn those notifications on. And we will see you in the next episode. Love ya. Bye bye.
Good night.